Adana and Chuka Okonkwo were the envy of many. To outsiders, they embodied the ideal couple, young, beautiful, successful. Adana was a high-end fashion boutique owner with a loyal social media following. Chuka, a thriving tech entrepreneur, ran a digital marketing firm with clients across West Africa. Their love story began during their university days at the University of Lagos. He was a focused business student. She was a spirited arts major with a taste for the extravagant. They met at a student networking event. He was captivated by her laughter. She admired his confidence. Their whirlwind romance turned into a grand Lagos wedding just a year after graduation, an event that made the society pages. That day, Adana wore a custom Vera Wang dress imported from Paris. Chuka flew in a live band from Ghana. Over 800 guests attended. People still talked about that wedding years later. For 10 years, the Okonkwos lived what many described as a #blessed life. They traveled extensively: Bali, Venice, Maldives. Each year, Chuka outdid himself, surprising Adana with lavish anniversary getaways. Their social media pages were filled with photos of helicopter rides, private beaches, candlelit dinners, and coordinated luxury outfits. But behind the lens of curated Instagram posts, something darker simmered. Sources close to the couple would later describe Chuka as controlling. While he provided everything Adana wanted materially, emotionally he had grown distant over the years. Meanwhile, rumors of Chuka's late nights and flirtations with younger interns in his firm were whispered among their friends. Still, Adana stayed. Public image was everything. By their 9th anniversary, things had become tense. Adana, once bubbly and affectionate, had grown quiet. Her close friends noticed she no longer wore her wedding ring at times. And Chuka, ever private, stopped posting pictures of her altogether. Yet when the idea of a 10th anniversary trip to Capetown came up, both smiled and agreed, if only for the sake of appearances. It was supposed to be a second honeymoon, a chance to rekindle what they once had. Adana, the planner of the two, handled the itinerary with precision. Luxury spa bookings, a personal photographer for their anniversary shoot, reservations at the top-rated restaurants, and a 3-night stay at the famed One and Only Hotel, one of Cape Town's most elite waterfront resorts. Chuka footed the bill without flinching. He hoped the splurge would smooth over months of quiet tension. To friends and family, they announced the trip with flair. Cape Town, here we come. 10 years down, forever to go. The comments flooded in. Couple goals. You two are perfect. Safe travels, lovebirds. None suspected what was coming. On the day of their departure, the couple posed for one final photo at Murtala Muhammad International Airport. Adana wore a white designer jumpsuit and sunglasses. Chuka held their passports up like trophies. Both smiled for the camera. It would be the last photograph of them alive together. Cape Town awaited, but so did something neither could have expected. A reckoning, a release of secrets, a tragedy that would shock two nations. They packed for paradise: silk dresses, cufflinks, perfume, and champagne. But what lay buried deep in their luggage wasn't clothing. It was the weight of secrets. And in the case of Chuka and Adana Okonkwo, secrets have sharp edges. As their flight cruised over the vast terrain of southern Africa, Adana stared out the window in silence. She wore noise-canceling headphones but wasn't listening to music. Her fingers fiddled with her wedding band, off, then on again, then off. Beside her, Chuka typed away on his tablet, responding to emails and slamming down orange juice between sighs. He wasn't much for small talk anymore. He hadn't been in months. They both felt it, the suffocating tension neither of them dared address head-on. This anniversary was more than a celebration. It was a test. Both secretly wondered if it would be their last trip together, but neither said the words out loud. Hidden in a zipped pouch inside her designer handbag was a folded letter, handwritten, slightly smudged. It was from a man named Thalani. a former security guard from Capetown she'd met during a girls' trip 2 years prior. The letter wasn't romantic, but it wasn't innocent either. It contained a message that read, "You said you wanted to feel alive again. I'll be waiting. Call me." She hadn't planned to see Thelani. At least not until Chuka brought up Capetown. That old itch came back. For months, Adana had nursed a bitter wound. She had discovered flirtatious messages on Chuka's phone. Some were from women in his office. Others were more explicit. When she confronted him, he dismissed them as harmless fun. "It's just banter, babe. Men do that. Don't take it personal," he said coldly. Since then, something in Adana died. And something else came alive, resentment. Thelani made her feel seen. She never planned for it to be serious. But the letter, and her secret plan to message him once they arrived, told a different story. Chuka, too, had his suspicions. He had recently found strange messages on Adana's second phone, a burner phone she kept for business. Most messages were deleted, but one name kept popping up, T. He confronted her once, casually. She laughed it off. "You're acting insecure, Chuka. As a business partner. Relax." But Chuka couldn't relax. In the weeks leading up to the trip, he had someone in his tech firm track Adana's second phone activity. What he found confirmed his fears. Multiple late-night texts, flirtatious emojis, hotel bookings during supposed church retreats. Still, he said nothing. He needed evidence. Hard proof. Capetown, he decided, would be the place he'd get it. Unbeknownst to Adana, he had packed more than just swimwear. He brought a hidden camera pen and a small digital voice recorder. As the plane descended into Capetown International Airport, the couple smiled for a selfie, an image that would later be used by multiple media outlets after the tragedy. But behind those smiles were agendas. Adana wanted to feel powerful again, to take back her dignity, maybe even meet Thelani one last time. Chuka wanted justice or revenge, or perhaps just a final confrontation. He hadn't decided yet. Each had packed their own brand of poison. Love had become surveillance. Trust had become theater. The trip was no longer about rekindling romance. It was a ticking time bomb, and it had just landed in Capetown. When they arrived at the one and only Capetown, staff were charmed by them. The Okonkwo's were the kind of guests who looked like they belonged, elegant, polite, and wealthy. They were shown to the Marina Suite, one of the most luxurious rooms in the hotel. It had a private balcony, a full kitchen, and an unbeatable view of Table Mountain. Adana immediately began filming a room tour for her Instagram followers. Chuka sat by the window, sipping wine, watching her. "Let them think we're happy," he muttered. She didn't hear him. The first day was exactly what you'd expect from a couple marking a decade of marriage. They dressed in coordinated outfits. Adana in a red silk wrap dress, Chuka in a white linen shirt and loafers. Their first stop, a luxury wine-tasting tour through the Stellenbosch vineyards. Their guide, Saifo, described them as reserved but polite. Photos from that day showed them smiling against the backdrop of grapevines and wine barrels, holding hands in one frame, clinking glasses in another. But to the trained eye, their closeness was performative. In candid shots, Chuka's gaze was distant. Adana's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. They were actors in a two-person play, one where the ending had already been written, and neither knew who would take the final bow. Later that night, while Chuka pretended to sleep, Adana stepped out onto the balcony with her phone. She sent a voice message via WhatsApp to a saved contact labeled, "T-Man. I'm here. Room 27. You said you'd be around. Don't play with me, Thelani." There was no reply. She stood outside for a long time, wrapped in a shawl, scrolling through old messages and photos, many of which she had deleted before boarding the plane. Behind her, inside the room, Chuka had one eye open. He watched her through the glass reflection, silently gripping his phone that was still recording audio from a hidden mic under their bed. He didn't know the man's name until now. But now he had it, Thelani. The second day brought more tension. At breakfast, a minor disagreement about the room temperature spiraled into silence. Chuka kept checking his phone. Adana noticed. She accused him of working too much. He snapped. At least I'm not sneaking out at night to talk to another man. Her eyes froze. Excuse me? You heard me? He said, calm but seething. You think I don't know about Thalani? Adana's hands trembled, but she kept her composure. Years of being watched, judged, and measured had trained her well. You're paranoid, she said, and weak. And just like that, they left breakfast early. The hotel staff noted that from that point on, the couple became noticeably colder toward one another. That afternoon, while lounging by the pool, Adana got a message. Come to the V&A waterfront parking lot. 7 p.m. Alone. T. She stared at the message for several minutes. She had not seen Thalani in nearly 2 years. Their thing had been reckless, short, and dangerous. But in her emotionally starved state, it had felt like oxygen. She didn't know what she'd say to him. She just knew she had to go. So, she told Chuka she was heading for a massage. He nodded too quickly. He didn't believe her. He knew. At 6:45 p.m., Adana left the hotel, dressed in a sleek black blazer and sunglasses. She ordered a private cab. Chuka, already dressed, followed 10 minutes later in a different ride-hailing car. He carried a small camera in his jacket pocket and a power bank in the other. His hands were sweaty. The V&A waterfront, with its high-end stores and romantic boat rides, was buzzing with tourists. But in the underground parking garage, it was dim, cold, and echoing. Adana stepped out of the cab, looking around cautiously. She saw him, Thalani, taller than she remembered. His face was leaner. He wore a denim jacket and Timberland boots. He smirked. You came. She walked up to him. The air was thick with silence. For a moment it felt surreal. What are you doing here? She asked. You messaged me. That was 2 years ago. He leaned in closer. But you still kept my number. They didn't notice the figure in the shadows. Watching, listening, recording. Chuka was there, and he saw everything. Later that night, when Adana returned to the hotel, Chuka was waiting. He didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He simply showed her the video. Her voice cracked. You followed me? I know everything now, he said, stone-faced. And when we get back to Lagos, I'm filing for divorce. Her eyes widened. She didn't expect that. For Adana, divorce was more than personal failure. It was social suicide. Her brand, her image, her life, all built on the illusion of a perfect marriage. You wouldn't dare, she whispered. Watch me, Chuka said. He poured himself a drink. She stood frozen. Somewhere in that room, a switch flipped, and in that exact moment, what could have been a clean breakup turned into a countdown to something far bloodier. It was the night of their anniversary. 10 years to the day since they had said, I do. They booked a dinner cruise along the Capetown harbor. A 5-course luxury meal, live jazz band, candlelight and complimentary wine pairing. To everyone else, they looked like royalty. But behind the curated smiles were quiet wars raging beneath the table. Adana barely touched her plate. Chuka drank more than usual. At one point, a couple from Germany asked to take a photo with them. They smiled. Click. One of the last photos ever taken of them together. Back at the hotel room around 10:43 p.m., the tension exploded. Chuka pulled out the hidden camera once again, placing it near the minibar without Adana noticing. He pressed record. Chuka, low voice, I saw you. You hugged him. You smiled like I haven't seen in years. Adana, sharp, because he sees me. You don't. Chuka. After everything I've done for you, the business, the house, the lifestyle. Adana, you think that's love? Throwing money at me while chasing your secretary around the office. Chuka. So this was revenge? Adana. No. This was a reminder that I still matter. A wine glass shattered. Chuka had thrown it at the wall. The argument escalated. Objects were thrown. Voices were raised. Security would later testify to hearing loud banging and a scream. Then sudden silence. At 12:13 a.m., hotel staff received an emergency call from room 27. Adana was screaming. When they arrived, the room was chaos. Chuka lay motionless on the floor, a deep wound to the side of his neck, blood pooling across the marble tiles. Adana was hysterical, hands shaking, clothes stained red. A broken bottle of wine was nearby, its jagged edge sharp enough to kill. She kept repeating the same words. I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. He came at me. South African police launched a full investigation. The crime scene was preserved. The hotel handed over all surveillance footage, including footage from the hallway showing Adana exiting the room twice in the hours leading up to the murder. Once at 11:12 p.m. and again at 11:56 p.m., right before the fatal altercation. The biggest twist came when police discovered the tiny recording device Chuka had placed by the minibar. It had captured everything. From the verbal fight to the fatal moment when Adana screamed, I swear to God, Chuka, if you come near me again. And then, the sound of a bottle smashing, a scuffle, and a chilling gurgle as Chuka collapsed. The news made headlines across South Africa and Nigeria. Nigerian power couple's Capetown anniversary ends in murder. The footage went viral. Adana's once glamorous influencer profile was flooded with hate comments. Some people blamed her. Others blamed Chuka. But most were simply stunned that such a fairy tale could end in such a nightmare. Church members, followers, clients, none of them saw it coming. Everyone thought they were perfect. Adana was arrested on the spot. At her initial hearing, she wept before the magistrate. It was self-defense. He was going to hit me, but prosecutors had other ideas. They presented evidence of premeditation. Her meeting with Thulani, the growing resentment, and the voice recording that captured her threatening words. Bail was denied. She remains behind bars at Pollsmoor Prison, awaiting trial. If convicted, she could face 25 years to life for second-degree murder. Their daughter, 8-year-old Zara, now lives with relatives in Abuja. The mansion in Lekki remains empty. The Okonkwo company has been dissolved. Their anniversary was supposed to be a celebration of love. Instead, it became a cautionary tale. A brutal reminder that sometimes what looks like gold is rotting underneath. And sometimes, love doesn't end in heartbreak. It ends in blood. The trial began 6 months after Chuka's death. Capetown's High Court was filled to capacity on the first day. Foreign journalists, Nigerian bloggers, and courtroom sketch artists all scrambled for a glimpse of the woman accused of killing her husband in cold blood. Adana Okonkwo entered the courtroom dressed in a modest beige blouse and black skirt, her hair neatly braided. Her face was calm, but behind her eyes, there was exhaustion. Not just from 6 months in Pollsmoor Prison, but from the endless internet speculation that painted her as everything from a victim of domestic abuse to a manipulative seductress. Her legal team, led by renowned defense attorney Tambaisile, was determined to prove she acted in self-defense. The prosecution, however, had other plans. Lead prosecutor Willem Coetzee wasted no time. He opened with the evidence, the hidden audio recording, in which Adana was heard threatening Chuka just before his death. The video of her meeting Thulani days before the murder. Her attempts to erase phone messages, deleted moments after the fight. And the autopsy report which showed Chuka had been stabbed in the neck from behind, suggesting he may have been trying to walk away. Coetzee's argument was simple. This was no crime of passion. It was premeditated. She lured him to Capetown, humiliated him, then killed him when he refused to remain quiet. Adana took the stand on day 12 of the trial. Her voice was shaky at first, but she gradually found her rhythm. She painted a different picture of Chuka. He was controlling, obsessive, and violent. He made me feel like a prisoner in my own life. She alleged that Chuka had beaten her once in Lagos after finding a message from Thalani on her old phone. She claimed he threatened to kill her if she ever embarrassed him publicly. He wasn't the man people thought he was. He wore a mask. Her lawyer presented photos of bruises on her arms from the week before the trip. But the timeline was murky, and the bruises could not be conclusively linked to Chuka. The defense insisted the fatal blow was an act of survival. She feared for her life, Ntambai Seal argued. She struck back, not to kill but to live. On day 17, Thalani Makona, the mysterious South African man, appeared in court. He testified under subpoena. Yes, we had a relationship, but it was over years ago. I didn't come to Capetown to meet her. I just happened to be there. She called me. I thought it was strange. When asked if they planned to be together again, he replied, "She told me she was scared, that her husband was becoming unhinged." Thalani's testimony was confusing, neither fully exonerating nor damning. But it created enough doubt to make the jury uneasy. In Lagos, the media circus was relentless. TV pundits debated her guilt daily. Social media hashtags like #JusticeForChuka and #FreeAdana trended for weeks. Some saw Adana as a symbol of female empowerment against abusive husbands. Others called her a snake who used her femininity and beauty to destroy a good man. One viral post read, "She killed the king and crowned herself the victim." Even in prison, Adana had become a symbol. To some, she was a hero. To others, a devil in designer heels. After 23 days of witness testimonies, forensic evidence, and closing arguments, the jury was sent to deliberate. They returned in 9 hours. The courtroom was silent as the foreperson stood. "We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of manslaughter, not murder." Gasps filled the room. The court had rejected premeditation, but agreed that her actions had led to her husband's death, and were not justified by self-defense alone. The judge sentenced Adana Okonkwo to 12 years in prison, with eligibility for parole after 7. She showed no emotion, only a deep, exhausted exhale as the gavel struck. Chuka was buried in Lagos in a quiet, private ceremony. His family refused to allow Adana's name to be mentioned. His businesses were liquidated. Their daughter, Zara, is being raised by Chuka's younger sister, who has filed to terminate Adana's parental rights. And Adana? She now spends her days in the female wing of a maximum security prison in Capetown, teaching English literacy classes to other inmates. Her old Instagram account, once filled with family portraits and vacation highlights, remains frozen, a museum of a life that no longer exists. 8-year-old Zara Okonkwo doesn't remember the sound of her mother screaming that night, but she remembers the aftermath. Flashing lights, strangers in uniforms, and being taken from the hotel by a kind but unfamiliar woman. Now living with her aunt, Ngozi. In Abuja, Zara is being raised in quiet anonymity. Her last name remains unchanged, but in school, teachers and students are instructed not to bring up the case. Zara has started therapy. Her drawings, once filled with houses and rainbows, now often show a girl standing alone beneath a cloudy sky.